In the heart of Agba village, nestled between rolling hills and dense forest, lived a young man named Ola. He was the pride of his family, the son of Chief Tumi, a wealthy businessman and respected leader in the village. Ola was admired by many for his kindness, intelligence, and striking good looks. But there was one thing that set him apart from most young men of his status: his unwavering love for a girl named Jumo. Jumo lived with her poor mother on the outskirts of Agba village. They barely had enough to eat, and their small hut was falling apart, but they had each other. Jumo was beautiful, with dark, glowing skin and eyes that sparkled with kindness. Despite her circumstances, she was known for her humility and hard work. However, the villagers often pitied her for her poverty, and many would whisper behind her back about how she would never amount to much. But Ola saw Jumo differently. He had fallen in love with her the first time he saw her, fetching water from the village well. Her grace and quiet strength captivated him, and soon, they became inseparable. They would often meet under the old baobab tree, where they would talk for hours about their dreams and hopes for the future. However, their love story was not without its challenges. Chief Tumi and his wife, Madam Orik, were not pleased with their son's choice. They had hoped Ola would marry a girl from a wealthy family, someone who could bring more prestige and wealth into their lineage. To them, Jumo was nothing but a poor girl who would only drag their son down. One evening, after Ola had returned from visiting Jumo, his father called him into his study. The room was filled with expensive wooden furniture, and the air smelled of rich tobacco, a scent Ola had grown accustomed to over the years. "Ola," Chief Tumi began, his voice stern, "I've heard that you've been spending a lot of time with that girl, Jumo." Ola nodded, his heart pounding. He knew where this conversation was heading. "Yes, father. Jumo is the woman I love, and I want to marry her." Chief Tumi's brows furrowed, and he exchanged a glance with Madam Orik, who was seated beside him. "Ola, you're a bright young man with a promising future," Madam Orik said, her voice laced with concern. "There are many other girls in this village from good families who would be more suitable for you. Why waste your life on a poor girl like Jumo?" "Because I love her," Ola replied firmly. "It doesn't matter to me that she's poor. She's kind, hardworking, and she makes me happy. Isn't that what matters most?" His parents looked at each other in disbelief. They couldn't understand how their son could choose love over wealth and status. "Ola," Chief Tumi said, his tone now more authoritative, "we have plans for you. This relationship with Jumo will only bring disgrace to our family. You must end it." But Ola was resolute. "I cannot end it, father. I love Jumo, and I will marry her, with or without your blessing." His words shocked his parents, and they were silent for a moment. Finally, Chief Tumi spoke again, his voice cold. "If you choose to defy us, then you will no longer have our support. You will be on your own, Ola." Ola nodded, accepting the consequences of his decision. "If that's what it takes, then so be it." Despite his parents' threats and attempts to separate them, Ola and Jumo's love only grew stronger. Ola stood by Jumo through every insult and every harsh word his parents directed at her. He defended her fiercely, never wavering in his commitment to marry her. Ola's friends and even some elders in the village tried to talk sense into him. "Ola, you're making a mistake," one of his friends, Sola, said one afternoon as they sat outside his house. "Your parents are right. There are many beautiful and wealthy girls in this village who would make a good wife for you. Why Jumo?" Ola smiled and shook his head. "You don't understand, Sola. It's not about wealth or status for me. Jumo is my soulmate. She completes me in ways no one else can. I would rather live a humble life with her than a life of luxury with someone I don't love. Ola sighed, realizing there was no change in his friend's mind. As the days passed, Ola's parents grew more desperate. They tried everything, from setting him up with other girls to bribing Jumo to leave him. But nothing worked. Ola remained steadfast, and Jumo, though hurt by their actions, continued to love him with all her heart. One day, after many failed attempts to break them apart, Chief Tumi and Madam Orik reluctantly agreed to let Ola marry Jumo. They saw that their son was determined, and nothing they did could change his mind. If you insist on marrying her, Chief Tumi said bitterly, then so be it. But don't expect us to be happy about it. Ola thanked his parents, though he knew their approval was half-hearted at best. He was just relieved that he could finally marry the woman he loved. Ola and Jumo's wedding was a modest affair, attended by a few close friends and family. Despite his parents' disapproval, Ola was overjoyed to be married to Jumo. They moved into a small house in the village, and for a while, they were blissfully happy. But soon, another challenge arose. Years passed, and Jumo was unable to conceive. In a village where children were considered a blessing and a sign of a successful marriage, this was seen as a serious problem. Ola's parents, who had never fully accepted Jumo, were quick to blame her for the delay. "She is barren," Madam Orik would say to anyone who would listen. "I knew from the beginning that this girl was no good for our son. Now, look at how she has cursed his life with her barrenness." Jumo heard these hurtful words time and time again. Each one was like a dagger to her heart. She longed to give Ola a child, to prove to his parents that she was worthy of their son. But no matter how much she prayed, no matter how many herbal remedies she tried, the years went by without any sign of a child. Ola, on the other hand, remained supportive. He never once blamed Jumo for their childlessness. He would hold her close at night and whisper words of comfort when she cried herself to sleep. "Don't worry, my love," he would say. "God's time is the best time. We will have our child when the time is right." But the pressure from his parents was relentless. One day, Chief Tumi called him to their home and spoke to him in a grave tone. "Ola, you know how important it is to have children in our culture," Chief Tumi began. "Without a child, who will carry on our family name? Who will inherit our wealth?" Ola sighed, already knowing where the conversation was going. "We have been patient, but it's been years now, and still no child," Chief Tumi continued. "We think it's time for you to consider taking another wife, someone who can give you the children you need." Ola's eyes widened in disbelief. "Father, how can you even suggest such a thing? I love Jumo. I will not betray her like that." "But what about your future? Your legacy?" Madam Orik chimed in. "Are you willing to throw it all away for the sake of a barren woman?" Ola clenched his fist, trying to control his anger. "Jumo is my wife. I made a vow to her, and I intend to keep it. I will not take another wife, no matter what you say." Chief Tumi and Madam Orik were furious, but Ola stood his ground. He would not abandon Jumo, no matter the cost. Frustrated by Ola's refusal to take another wife, his parents decided to take matters into their own hands. They found a young woman from a neighboring village, a beautiful girl named Adizwa, and brought her to Ola's house. "This is Adizwa," Madam Orik said as she introduced the girl to Ola and Jumo. "She is from a good family, and she is willing to be your second wife. We have already made the arrangements." Ola looked at his parents in shock. "You can't be serious. You brought another woman into my home without my consent." "We are only doing what is best for you," Chief Tumi said firmly. "You need children, and Adizwa can give them to you. Jumo stood silently, her heart breaking as she watched the scene unfold. She had always feared this day would come, the day when Ola's parents would force him to take another wife. She felt like a failure, like she had let everyone down. But to her surprise, Ola turned to Adizwa and spoke kindly but firmly. "I'm sorry, Adizwa, but I cannot marry you. I am already married to Jumo, and I love her with all my heart. I cannot betray her like this." Adizwa looked down, embarrassed, and after a few awkward moments, she quietly left the house. Ola's parents were livid. "How can you be so foolish?" Madam Orek shouted. "You are throwing away your future for this barren woman." But Ola didn't back down. "I made a promise to Jumo, and I intend to keep it. I will not take another wife, no matter what you say." As the days went by, the pressure and insults from Ola's parents continued. Jumo was often left alone in the house, and during those lonely hours, she would cry until she had no more tears left. The pain of childlessness, coupled with the constant humiliation, weighed heavily on her soul. On a few occasions, dark thoughts of ending her life crept into her mind, but each time, she would shake them off, reminding herself of Ola's love. One afternoon, as Jumo was walking through the village, lost in her thoughts, she didn't notice a car speeding down the road. She was crossing the street without looking, and just as the car was about to hit her, it screeched to a halt, narrowly missing her. "Hey! Watch where you're going," a voice called out from the car. Jumo snapped out of her daze and looked up to see a young man stepping out of the vehicle. He was dressed in simple clothes, but there was a calmness and warmth in his demeanor that immediately put her at ease. "Are you all right?" the man asked, his voice filled with concern. Jumo nodded, though her heart was still racing. "Yes, I'm fine. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention." The man studied her face for a moment, noticing the sadness in her eyes. "You seem troubled. Is everything all right?" At first, Jumo hesitated. She wasn't used to sharing her problems with strangers, but something about this man made her feel like she could trust him. "I'm Jumo," she finally said. "And, no, everything is not all right." The man smiled gently. "I'm Pastor Kola. Maybe I can help. Why don't you tell me what's on your mind?" Jumo found herself opening up to him, pouring out all the pain and frustration she had been holding inside. She told him about her struggle to conceive, the constant pressure from her in-laws, and the toll it was taking on her marriage. Pastor Kola listened attentively, nodding as she spoke. When she finished, he placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Jumo, I know it's hard, but you must not lose hope. God has a plan for you, even if you can't see it right now. I've seen many couples go through what you're going through, and they've come out stronger on the other side. You just need to keep your faith." "But it's so hard," Jumo said, her voice trembling. "I feel like I'm letting everyone down, especially Ola." "You're not letting anyone down," Pastor Kola said firmly. "You are doing your best, and that's all anyone can ask for. God is with you, even in your darkest moments. Don't give up on Him, and don't give up on yourself." Jumo nodded, feeling a small glimmer of hope for the first time in months. "Can I pray with you?" Pastor Kola asked. "Yes, please," Jumo whispered. Right there on the side of the road, Pastor Kola prayed for Jumo, asking God to strengthen her faith, give her peace, and bless her with the child she so desperately wanted. As he prayed, Jumo felt a sense of calm wash over her, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. When the prayer ended, Pastor Kola gave her a reassuring smile. "Remember, Jumo, God's timing is perfect. Trust in Him, and He will not fail you." Jumo thanked him, feeling a renewed sense of hope. She returned home that day with a lighter heart, determined to face her challenges with faith and courage. Months passed, and Jumo continued to pray, holding on to the words Pastor Kola had spoken to her. She refused to let the negative comments from her in-laws get to her, and instead, focused on her love for Ola and her faith in God. Then, one morning, something extraordinary happened. Jumo woke up feeling different. She couldn't quite explain it, but there was a sense of excitement bubbling inside her. Later that day, she visited the village midwife, and after a series of tests, the midwife confirmed what Jumo had only dared to dream of: she was pregnant. Jumo could hardly believe it. She rushed home to tell Ola the good news, her heart pounding with joy. "Ola! Ola!" she called out as she burst into their house. Ola looked up, surprised by her excitement. "What is it, Jumo?" "I'm pregnant," she cried, tears of happiness streaming down her face. "We are going to have a baby." Ola stared at her in shock, and then a wide grin spread across his face. He pulled her into his arms, spinning her around in joy. "Thank God." "Oh, thank God," he exclaimed, his voice choked with emotion. "Jumo, this is the best news I've ever heard." The news of Jumo's pregnancy spread like wildfire through the village. Ola's parents, who had once despised her, were stunned. They couldn't believe that the girl they had once called barren was now carrying their grandchildren. But the surprises didn't end there. When it came time for Jumo to give birth, she delivered not one, not two, but 3 healthy babies, triplets. 2 boys and a girl. Ola was overjoyed, and even his parents couldn't contain their happiness. They visited Ola and Jumo in the hospital, their faces filled with awe as they held their grandchildren for the first time. "Jumo," Chief Tumi said, his voice softening for the first time in years, "we were wrong about you. You have brought so much joy to our family, and for that we are grateful." Madam Orik nodded, tears in her eyes. "We are so sorry for all the pain we caused you. Please, forgive us." Jumo smiled through her tears, her heart swelling with love and forgiveness. "I forgive you," she said simply. "Let's put the past behind us and move forward as a family." Ola and Jumo's story became a source of inspiration for many in the village. It was a testament to the power of love, faith, and perseverance. Despite the obstacles they faced, they never gave up on each other or on their belief that God would bless them in His own time. True love is not just about standing by someone when things are easy, but also about holding on to each other when the storms of life come. And faith, no matter how small, can move mountains. As for Jumo, she never forgot the words of Pastor Kola, who had reminded her that God's timing is perfect. She often visited him with her children, thanking him for his prayers and encouragement. And so, Ola, Jumo, and their triplets lived happily, surrounded by love, faith in God, and courage to face any challenge.